push to be where you are, it's not for you to, live a life of selfish ease and just enjoy gluttonously whatever privileges and whatever, gifts you've been given. But you are to live a life that is a blessing to others. You are to pave paths and ways for others to walk through with ease so that and they are to do the same. I think if the world adopted that kind of mentality, we'll be far. My name is Thabiso Dakamela. I'm a visual artist. Paint, I draw. I'd like to usually consider myself as a business person in the art industry, rather instead of just a visual artist, because there's a couple of other things that I do that are in the creative industry. I'm writing a book. I have small businesses. I have a small project of some sort that incubates artists as well. To push them in terms of furthering their career, introducing them to the market, and just showing them a bit of know-how of things, this and that, what to expect. Some of the things that we've come across in the journey, they finally. So yeah, so I'd like to definitely think that I'm a business person in there. So I have a very tricky heritage story. Uh, my father is Venda. My mother is Ndebele. But I speak more Zulu than Venda. It's crazy. Um, so I met my dad at a later stage in life. For the most part of my life, I think I was raised by my mother, and I think that obviously has had an impact on the work that I do, and the subject matter, etc., etc. I'm a self-taught artist, so a lot of what I know is really based off on personal research, practice, grades, my weights, etc., etc. But I think if I could trace a time when I started to do art professionally, would be just over a decade ago, maybe 11 years now. I just finished high school and I was supposed to further my academics, but you know what happens, Maupu make a higher, and things are not really balancing. So I got a scholarship. I was supposed to study law in Cyprus, but unfortunately, it was like a partial scholarship, so I couldn't, continue. And I'd like to think that's the point. That was the turning point for my career, where then art sort of called me, uh, became like a source of consolation at first, and then by and by, I spread my wings, and um, over 10 years later, here am I. This is a journey, man. It's bigger than just painting. As much as the outside world knows that, no, you just have a talent, you can sort of imitate something you see, but it's bigger than that. As you dive deep into it, you realize that it has so much to do with growth, character growth. It has a lot to do with even challenging the norms of society. And in many cases, creatives have been at the nuclear of culture. There can be no culture without artists and creatives. These are the people that actually, abasungula a culture across the world, across all disciplines and races. So it's so that was one of the many defining moments. But yeah, it's most certainly is a point worth noting in my career. Fortunately or unfortunately, we come from a society, and I mean, 10 years ago, really, if you told someone, no, I want to be an artist, especially in the black community, man, that's like art is had for a long time been regarded as a an extra curriculum. You understand? Something that you do as a hobby or after you've done serious things. So to go and tell parents that look, this is the path I want to take. It's not very easy in our community. Um, it wasn't. It was worse then. I think it's gotten better now. I mean, we've seen movements that has actually encouraged people to kind of understand things better, and part of a group of artists that are actually trying to work on something. Could be a book or but something that is going to help to educate people on the importance of investment, art investment. um Something that Europeans do, Chinese do, Americans do, but it's very rare in Africa. So those are some of the things that we're trying to do to try and educate our society and communities on the importance of especially investment in art, and putting it in your trust and or something like that. And then yes, the yes part to your question is, I think I'm one of those that were lucky to ultimately have supportive family, in as much as there's disagreements to certain things and certain decisions that we make. But I think my family was overall, you know, um, supportive. Um, I think they kind of had some faith in me. So that was very helpful, man. And obviously friends, here and there. And then, with time, people that then start believing in your work, that look at your work as more than something to just decorate a house, but also something that could change their lives, something that speaks volumes, something that's worth a conversation, which can impart someone's life. Like any business, really, you have to treat it as a business. There are times when business is not good. It's a common term. You know, there are times when you can go for months without selling a thing, and you have a family. You need to feed the family. For some of us, I think we've been given the privilege to have different people and different families that God puts in our responsibility, and you are the backup plan in a way. So there are times when maybe the walls are closing in, and it's dry left, right, and center, and in those moments, I think you have to dig deep into the darkest parts of you to just find a ray of light, because you most of the times artists are givers. They are givers, like, naturally. So most of the times people that are givers, they struggle to receive. And what that means partially is, um there are moments when they need to stand alone, and they know that I need to stand alone. And it becomes worse because I'm a man as well, and you're a man. There are moments when you just, in a corner, and you just know that, okay, it's either you find a solution or there is none at all. And at the time, it's not very easy, you know. So there are moments like that, and especially if maybe, let's say, like, business is not good, or you lose a loved one. In a few years, the past few years, I've lost, like, people that were very special. Sometimes, when that happens, even the inspiration to paint, you sit in front of a canvas for hours. You can't even think of something, but then it comes back, and you remember that, um, at the end of the day, it's an obligation, and there's no bigger joy than fulfilling your obligations. So then I think that becomes that silver lining. With the, well, I still need to fulfill my obligations, so I gotta push. Inspiration is gonna find me working, um and I have to always, constantly remind myself that I'm not just doing this for myself or to make a beautiful art or something like that. So it's deeper than that. So if you look at my work, it has a lot of themes that we deal with on a day to day. It discusses a lot of, thematic concerns and a lot of social interactions. I have a healthy interest in human beings' relations, one to another, men to women and women to men. So I have an interest in, and I observe, how people relate to each other, because at the end of the day, every moment that is like a definition to some degree, is based off on everyday things, emotions, feelings, conversations, etc., etc. So if we tap into that, maybe that's where we're able to get answers, because then we come up with patterns, and we understand different behaviors, and yeah. So um I have to constantly remind myself why we started. Um, Purpose, I'd say, in a nutshell. I have a philosophy that I live by, and my philosophy is based on the belief that every human being um, has a role to play in life to make another human being's life better. No one lives to themselves. No one has ever made it by themselves, and those people that I believe, have died with the greatest satisfaction in life are those that have lived to make the world a better place. So there was a time, a year, I always talk about this story because it's another defining moment in my career where I did a piece. It was a painting of a young boy that was walking away. So he's rear facing, and then he's carrying like a bag, a heavy bag. And the person that collected that piece, he's in the over in the US. He sent me an email later, and he was saying that, look, I was at the verge of losing my life, and then I bought this piece, and it gave me so much encouragement. Like, I can't wait to walk just down the foyer just to look at it. And you changed my life. You saved my life. Hearing something like that to me was like, okay, yeah, no. So we're not just doing this for ourselves. If there's one person, at least one person out there that can say, okay, you change my life with your art, then that's good. That's enough. So I think that was like the starting point for me to really just understand the purpose of what art is. Where artist stands as the guardians of truth, and more so, people that question society on things, or encourage where they needs to be encouraged. One person put it like this: it said, art makes the comfortable uncomfortable, and then it comforts the disturbed. So it became a part of what, for me, would I would define as purpose. That when I wake up in the morning, when I go to the studio, I know what I'm doing this for, who I'm doing this for. And so it's not just for me, I'm giving a part of myself to the world because it is an obligation. I do have one baby girl. I think she's turning 3 in a few months. And to the guys, one of the things that I always say is, the same way that, someone has opened opportunities for you to be where you are, you have an obligation to do the same to others, for others. You, I'd like to be remembered as a channel for people to, get to their destinations, and to impart the same knowledge to others, that, like, you have pushed to be where you are. It's not for you to, live a life of selfish ease and just enjoy gluttonously whatever privileges and whatever, gifts you've been given. But you are to live a life that is a blessing to others. You are to pave paths and ways for others to walk through with ease, so that, and they are to do the same. I think if the world adopted that kind of mentality, we'll be far. Not just as individuals, but as black people, as as a community, as we see these things, man, every time. Like, these people that are doing it and it's successful. And I think that it's something that lacks among us, uh, mostly, chiefly because of the kind of education that's in circulation now. That, like, when you open social media, when you open people's statuses on WhatsApp, everyone is focused on self. Everyone is focused on, yeah, it's me, it's me. And that doesn't work. So I'd like to be remembered as the guy that says, look, this much you've been given, double that and give others as well. Without being necessarily specific, I'd say some things are not worth it, but the things that are worth it need to be done without fail. Duty comes before everything, and not just duty to itself. I'm against, but not so much. It's a lengthy conversation, obviously, but I'm not so sold on the conversations and notions that today's age has, or today's society gravitates towards, that of self, that of focus on you. I've never seen in my study of history or anything like that, anything that has succeeded um with people just doing things for themselves. It has never been a winning formula. It may at some point to some extent, but I'm not sold on that. So it's a lengthy conversation, obviously, where we look at the specifics and reasons why. But one of the things that I would tell my younger self is, man, you don't live to yourself. Nobody lives to themselves. Schwarzenegger made a speech one time and we were saying that it is a lie for someone to say, they are where they are because of their own capacities only. Someone made a call to someone at some point. Someone connected you with a necessary connection that got you where you are today. And it is your obligation to do the same for someone else. That is the collective movement of making the world a better place. It starts with you realizing that you are not where you are because you're the smartest in the room, or the cleverest, or the most moneyed, or whatever. You are where you are because someone played a part, and so it is your obligation to also play a part for the person coming after you to do the same. And that, to me, is duty and purpose. My studio is in Sentin, Summer Street, 12 Summer Street in Rivonia. In Joburg, I have another studio in Cape Town, Sidetrack Studios. It's in Salt River. And I have platforms that I work with, closely work with ALX Gallery in Sentin, and we're just finalizing a deal to do a project with the Cresta Mall. We're gonna have space there where there'll be available art and also an incubation program as well. People can also find me on social media, mostly Instagram, at art_by_Thabiso Dakamela. And just now I'm working on a show in the US and in Germany. A couple of shows locally, so be on the lookouts for my social media posts, and that's where I usually update on what's happening where. But yeah, those are my go-to places for people to find me and my work.